All right. So when you guys are beginning to create your artwork, especially with the face, you just want the general shape of your artwork. Let me face this camera a bit better. There we go. And so I just kind of outlined where the eyes are on mine. Like I said, this horn is just a placement. I'll update it later. I could choose to keep it, but at this point, just because it's such a small piece, I could make that better later. But I'm just going to go through just some simple demonstrations on how to create the eyes. Now, it does help if you have reference photos, like I said. I have a couple that I'm relying on, but I also have some that you can't see it, but I do have some that I looked at the internet with. Now, if you were to add eyeballs to your actual sculpture, you're going to need clay, right? But I think for the most part, it's not so much adding the eyeballs, it's about creating the form around the eyeballs that make the animals realistic. So well, let me see, I have some extra clay I put aside. It's too hard. You don't want to begin with hard clay. So as you saw earlier, I sprayed down my the part of the head before the class started. I did spray it down a bit, and what I'm going to do now is actually spray it again, because I want, when I slip and score, I want to be able to have the clay stick. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the form up on the actual eyes here. Now, as I see with my rhino, I know there's another horn here, so I'm just going to put a temporary placement so I don't build over it. I know that the horn, that second horn, is located right here. And I'm using a different colored clay so you can see what I'm actually adding on, all right? Now, like I said, when you're creating the eyes, right, I just marked it with my wooden knife. That's the mark that you see. There actually isn't any eyeball in there. But what I am going to do is I'm going to slip and score that area. Now, I know you don't have a rhino, but the concept is still the same, right? Build the form around the eye. And so for the rhino, I know that, you know, according to my pictures, there's a big brow bone above. Dogs tend to have a lot of bone on the top part where the snout is. And so to make your dog look like a dog and not like a pig, you actually have to build those forms up. All right. So what we're doing here is a very additive process, just like how we added the clay. This is the same process where we're adding on clay. And as you can see here with the difference of color of clay, you could see that I added on a certain amount of clay, all right? And so there's no eyeball. This is just all the eye socket here, and I'm just using my thumb to prepare that surface. And eventually that's where the eye will be, and I could just use the wooden knife to create the eyeball and not have to add any clay at all. And I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Hold on, I have a wire here. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing. Scoring it. And I'll go over how to create the mouth as well, nostrils. I'm going to add about the same amount of clay. And then how I shape it, usually, you know, I just get a small amount of clay. I just estimate visually how much I'll need. So you don't want to add too much or too little, because you'll continue to just paste on the clay. But you know, usually I start with about a Skittle size. If your animal is about this big, that's what I start with typically. And then I'll just put it on there, and it looks funny, right? Because I have that placement horn. And then here, all I'm doing is now pushing the clay just with my thumb. And I know that I'm creating the brow structure of this animal. Now, it looks really random, but I know that eventually if I push right here, where the eyeball actually will be, then I know that, you know, I'll have form there. Now, what's going through my mind is that, you know, it's not perfect, but when I add on these 3D forms, I know that it creates shadow, right? So even under here, under this brow structure, it creates shadow. Before that, I just marked it with my wooden knife, right? Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see what the next step is. So, I added this clay, right? And I have this brow structure. All right, so you guys, for the brow, once you guys have the brow structure built on your animal, doesn't matter which animal you guys have, but one tool that you guys could use and would probably be very helpful for you is the wooden knife. And so we already have the brow structure connected, and we're going to go ahead and just create the eyeball. And so I'll go ahead, I'll insert here, and I'll hold the tool this way to get the other side, and flip that knife over again. We'll just try to get it round. So after we added that clay, we're just pushing that clay aside, and as you can see with the shadow, we're able to actually have the form of an eyeball. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. And just push it down. Flip the tool over. I'm holding it with my other hand. And that's pretty much it. Now from animal to animal, it might vary. The shape might vary, but the process is the same. Alright, that's it. And make sure you guys spray it down. Get it wrapped up. Don't let it dry out.